So I suppose we'll go ahead and get started. I tried a fun warm up with my students this week um, that I think is a good place to begin for the 5 minute or so introduction. And that was to have them close their eyes and imagine the space they're in. Say, imagine they spend a lot of time in that space working and being in class. And then with eyes closed, kind of like a blind contour, attempt to draw out the space. We were focusing kind of on a floor plan, but that's not really relevant. So, any way you can think of what you imagine in the space and try to kind of track it around the page with the eyes closed. It's an interesting exercise. I'm going to start with where I am, somewhere here, and try to feel my way to the wall that's nearby, track my way along the wall till I come to a corner or a bump and change direction. Similar to the blind contour, I'm trying to keep my mind connected to the imagination of the edges and move the pencil about the same speed as I track along those edges. As I start to feel I'm approaching a change, making that slight adjustment, attempting to kind of remember how much I moved the previous time. And I reach things like doors or windows, just giving them a little bump to indicate there's a change there. Maybe bringing in furniture or ignoring it for now. Taking a deep breath when I get to corners. Remember to slow down a little bit and just follow my mind's eye. Maybe to loosen up and hold the pencil a little further back, a little further up. And try not to race to the end. Remember, they're probably not going to meet up too well. But in my mind, they kind of do, so that's okay. And if I can really challenge my internal vision, see if I can remember with my muscles roughly where I was when I started. Maybe begin to let the pencil feel around the page to other things in the room. Maybe a quick kind of diagram of where do things, a desk, a little table, bookshelves, chairs, couches. And then seeing how we did. It's definitely a bit of a blind contour there. And taking that new map, thinking through what you might want to add or adjust. I like to think about how the light is coming in, bring some attention to that in the space, thinking the shapes of the light, maybe just the distinctions of areas that are lighter and darker. Door. Think of the language that I've developed in my uneyed attention to the drawing. See if I can bring that to some of the other elements in the space. I've kind of warmed up my shoulders, my fingers a little. Started to connect my imagination to a piece of paper. I think we can begin to explore a more close subject to our drawing. I've always enjoyed looking at hands, exploring hands and their interface to the world for us, relationship to what we do so much of in our daily lives and practice. And I think they're a nice place to start exploring through drawing. I'm going to just use my left hand so I can draw a little more comfortably with my primary hand and find a position I think reveals something interesting about the hand. You're just going to let it flex a little bit on the page and find a relaxed space there and use that. Begin to do a similar exercise from the outside in, the inside out, using the eyes or not, using the connection to the paper to begin to track the outer contours. Maybe it's slight gentle stroke to start to form the basic shapes and outlines. Getting a profile in place, starting point for detail. Slowly letting the eyes and mind resolve to bring the resolution into a higher degree. Maybe to notice things that you don't normally pay attention to in your fingers, creases, strange bumps we get over time. Using our hands, using them to draw, to cook, to make things, to exercise, to feel our way through this physical matter part of the world. I like to keep some attention there, really follow the edges and the curves, but knowing that for me at least, this is not an exercise in perfect representation of my hand, so I can also let it wander a little. Take the details as a starting point and explore. Knowing that the creases and folds in the skin will cover up inaccuracies to the real condition, but also build new imagined conditions in there. This always reminds me of the turkey drawings we did in grade school. To kind of dig in and exaggerate parts that I find interesting, parts I have to do a lot of work, stretch, fold, but over time, develop these deep layers of creases. It's a reflection of the physical nature of the position I'm in. Putting on part of my hand. To locate things, use foreground and background crossings will find intersection. There's so many opportunities for overlap and connection in here. Start to find there are two lines cross for me and build out from there. See the connection if the fingers are touching, that pressure it puts on the skin creates a bulge with a bit of physics in it. It always draws my attention. How the elastic properties are reflected in the shape. This deep fold moment. The lines aren't enough. I begin to layer them into a bit of shade and shadow. Overlaps disappear into the space behind them. It's repetition that our fingers provide, a unit that operates mostly the same, looks mostly the same, do mostly the same things for us. Each one has its subtle differences, its unique characteristics. You can stand out to differentiate from the whole. Bringing some attention to what is in front, what lines really grab my attention and giving them more prominent, confident strokes, letting the pencil graphite be more liquid on the page. Move away from some discovery strokes like into strokes that speak, generate, find new access to the subject. Start to let some things fade away into the shadows. So you like to retrace some steps, find new areas for detail. And some interesting marks, freckles on my get in there. If you can see a fingernail and capture its transparency, like graininess in my case, grain to them, series of parallel lines reveal their contour in space. Getting a little free from my hand, try to capture it back in. Find some pronouncement in form and shape in the knuckles. They do so much work for us. Maybe they complain a little bit, make them do a little too much, wrinkle or fold to remind us of everything they help us with every day. So my hand is getting tired, slipping, maybe reforming to the image that I had years ago. Noticing the smoothness of the curve of the tip of the finger, the roughness of the callus, starting with things that are layered over, working with things that tuck behind. Interested in this compression between my pinky finger and my ring finger, the tension they're building there as the smaller one supports the larger one. Depth of shadow between them, point of emphasis. Taking a deep breath, getting some definition to surface through the contours of our fingertips very lightly, so you can see them into the drawing. See how I can capture the little subtle light folds and creases to give definition and dimension to my wrist, back of my hand, or some dark contour into the light, undifferentiated space. See what that does. Connections. As this unfolds from the representation of something, I'm looking at my fingers, maybe now beginning to read into the drawing. Hands a little tired, flexing it out. Got enough in place that I can what else I might see here, what I might want to imagine in my hand, and use it as a template or canvas for adding something new to the drawing, exaggerations, highlights, deeper folds I imagine. Trying to get that attention to the pressure of the skin to come through. Like the idea of wondering if this is still my hand, as I change it, transform it, create it into something else. Think about where it's sitting. No longer needing the subject to guide my pencil and my eye, just allowing the drawing to take on its own language, imagination at play, being thankful and attentive to having this time, having something like this paper to explore with, this pencil in my hand to guide this observation of my hand, this transformation, and something that didn't exist before. This emergent condition from my mind. I'm thankful that I have an imagination. We can explore with mediums such as drawing. Sort of shadow. Maybe things from our younger selves. If we watched a lot of Bob Ross, this is how I feel in these moments. Letting the drawing speak, come out of the page, having little imaginative narratives, what might be going on. I work with the shadow, things close to places that make contact to have a little darkness, so they feel more physical, more attached to the surface. Softening the edge would feel just like a shape. Some reflected sunlight. Letting it get lighter around things that are floating in the air. Change their weight. Just a few strokes of the pencil. Seriously, think about all the fun I have in the summers and pre-college teaching a foundation course with our architecture course, and to explore things like charcoal, mediums to build upon the regular and controlled ways we often draw in architecture. Feel like the knuckles a little sore. Well, it's been working hard, finding this connection to it as a device, and helping bring my attention to that interface I have to communicating ideas, communicating things I see in the world to others, or just knowing them a little bit more through that attention, incorporation, and then transmission of subtle details. Nice. Hope if you're having a good attention to the drawing, to keep on going, have some fun with it. If it helped to start a little relaxed, maybe bring up some thoughts. I think it's time for me to journal. I procrastinated a little doing my yoga this morning, but thank you. It's good to see everybody. Hope everyone has a great Wednesday. Take care.